Welcome back on the AM show. We get into our first conversation and we're going to be talking about narcotics. Yes, we know them, and drug-related health issues. And joining us for that conversation this morning, we have NCO Rees Hakeem Odro. He is Deputy Greater Accra Regional Commander. He joins the conversation. A very good morning to you.
Good morning.
The Narcotics Control Commission, formerly the Narcotics Control Board. You've come a long way. I think it's only fitting that we start off the conversation on the point of what the commission does, what you do generally, and maybe we'll get into the conversation of what narcotics are for those who are watching us this morning. So tell us a bit about your commission.
Thank you. First of all, greetings to your cherished viewers, and I extend greetings to my Director General, who is currently watching us, and the Greater Accra Regional Head, and the entire team at the Greater Accra Regional Office. Narcotics Control Board formally was established by the PNDC Law 236, and it existed until 2020 May, when the commission, or the new act, that is the Narcotics Control Commission Act 2020 Act 1019, was also passed. So this new commission is a form of, it's like an enhanced powers and functions. So initially, we didn't have, for example, we didn't have the power to prosecute, but now, in consultation with the Attorney General, now we can prosecute. In the past, with the board, we couldn't carry arms, but now with the new commission, we can carry arms. So it's just an enhance of powers and functions expansion that now the commission has been given. So it's just like our job has been extended to other areas that in the past we were not going there. Yeah.
It's like the free zones now also an authority, how the changes come through. Over the years, the NACOC has been, of course, NACOC now to NACOC has done a lot in the area of controlling narcotics and all of that. What would you say stands out since 2020 when this Act 1019 took effect? What would you say has stood out in terms of narcotics control in Ghana?
Okay, what this act, or what stands out after the passing of this new act, is that now we are advocating, or we are mandated to make drug use a public health problem. In the past, it was criminalized, where you could serve a minimum of 5 years, a maximum of 10 years. But with this new act, now, if you are caught using any of these substances, you will be fined not less than 200 penalty units and not more than 500 penalty units. Unless you are unable to pay the fine, that's when you'll be sentenced to 15 months imprisonment. However, if the act also permits us that if we find out that you are actually addicted or you are suffering from what we call substance use disorder, then you can be referred to a rehabilitation center instead of the fine or the pre-imprisonment.
We'll get into the details of that. It's a question I had slated for your appreciation because of those latest dynamics and the fact that we're trying to prevent incarcerating people and rather enforce punitive measures. But what exactly are the narcotics that the control board? There's a famous case, I just forget the title of it, where some people were apprehended. They were actually growing marijuana and they had no idea that what they were growing or using had legal implications. It's a famous story. It's a famous legal case that comes with knowledge versus what the law says. But ordinarily, I mean, if you use any of these substances, it is assumed that you know exactly what it is and the consequences thereof follow. But what are narcotics? What, according to this act, is described as a narcotic drug?
Okay, then we go to the interpretation, since you are referring to the act. But generally, narcotics are the banned substances. They are the illegal drugs that, to us, has no medicinal purpose. So for any doctor or medical practitioner to prescribe. So let's go here. narcotics, according to the Act. That is section 113.
All right.
Section 113, that's where the interpretations are. So narcotics means narcotic drug or plant. The narcotic drug includes any substance specified in the 5th, 6th, and 7th schedule, whether it's a natural or a synthetic form. So the schedules too are here. We come to the 5th. Okay. I think there are many. I may not be able to list all of them, but the popular ones are cocaine, heroin. So this is the 5th schedule. That's at the back of the act. We have them: opium, codeine, thebaine, morphine, coca leaves, cocaine, methamphetamine, a lot of them. I think they are listed. A lot of chemicals are also listed in the 5th, 6th, and 7th schedule. Yeah. So basically, that is what the act is saying, that any substance specified in the 5th and 6th schedule. So to know all of them, they need to get the act so you can just see but the popular ones are cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine.
All right. It's interesting that you put all of these together, of course, all of them having their own, whether hallucinogenic or whatever effects. But a point of interest for me is codeine, which is medicinal.
Yes, it's medicinal.
But it also has its narcotics end. Please explain that.
Okay, so with codeine, what it does is, it's also from the opium poppy. That's where it's within the family of opioids or opiates. And these are drugs that are for severe pain. However, once you take these substances, they depress the central nervous system. So overdosing it or abusing it, that is when it has not been prescribed to you, it can be very, very deadly. So that makes codeine a bit delicate when we talk about it, because in one vein it is legal. However, it can only be prescribed, or it should only be prescribed by medical practitioners. But people pass behind the scenes and they manage to get these substances and they abuse them. But the adverse effects and the dangers are just like taking or abusing heroin or any of the opioids or opiates.
Mm. It can be used as an analgesic. Sometimes it is even used with aspirin. So it has its health use. But of course, even with weed, there is a medicinal component to it, where there's an industrial use for it. There is a medicinal component to it. And of course, there is the other side, which is an abuse of a drug. Does that mean that in our jurisdiction, I mean, something like Tramadol, which some people mix with all kinds of other substances to create a sort of cocktail. We hear, for example, those who work in the mines, I'm not talking of the legitimate ones, the illegal miners, they often mix a lot of these. And what is the status of that? And we know some of these products are in cough mixtures and all of that. What is the status of that? How does NACOC approach such abuse or products?
Let me clarify something first with regard to the medicinal aspect of weed. Yes, in other jurisdictions, it is there. It is widely known. Research has indicated.
Right.
But as we sit in Ghana here,
yes, under our jurisdiction,
there is no medicinal use for cannabis or marijuana. That is legally. But when you go to other jurisdictions, there is. With Tramadol and the cough mixtures that you are talking about, these are legal substances. However, some bad guys are producing them illegally, because I don't think you need more than 50 milligrams of Tramadol for any pain that you are going through. But we see our brothers and sisters on the streets, sometimes you use like 500 milligrams. You just mix with any of these caffeine.
Sometimes energy drinks.
Yes, and that's the danger, because these energy drinks are stimulants. They contain caffeine, which is stimulant. And Tramadol being a depressant, once you mix this depressant and stimulant together, you kind of send a wrong signal or a wrong message to the brain. And it leads to a whole lot of confusion in the system, because now the brain does not know whether to send a block or a message to the body that, no, you need to be depressed because of the Tramadol, or you need to be elated or stimulated because of the caffeine. So that is it. But because they are legal, what we do is, once we see people who are trading in it without license, we seize them. But when it comes to arresting people for using Tramadol, that is a bit difficult. So what we do is the education, trying to let them know that even though it is legal, you are passing behind the scenes to get these substances and you are abusing them, just know that the detrimental effects or the adverse effects await you. So that is what we do, but we don't go in as in going to clamp them down for. But however, when you know clandestine laboratories where these things are being produced, that one we can go and shut it down because they don't have the license to produce those medications.
So if you went to any chemical shop or pharmacy and you found out, for example, that they were dispensing Tramadol in milligrams or grammage that is beyond the requisite, I mean, very high, what would be the response?
That would be difficult to tell or to say because it's the work of the doctor and the pharmacist to know the prescribed dosage or milligram that is recommended or required by a person. So me just walking into a pharmacy or a chemical shop will find it difficult to establish the fact that what you are giving to this person is an overdose, unless I'm coming from the medical field. However, no certified pharmacist will give you Tramadol that is beyond the milligram, the required milligram for you. So I don't think there might be bad guys out there, but no certified or responsible pharmacist will prescribe or will give you such medication or such dosage.
Let's extend this a little more because my research shows that in Ghana, when it comes to these drugs, hard substances that are abused, the number one drug is marijuana. And I've also found out that we often don't pay attention to street children, the street urchins, but they're also in the mix. I was reading one research piece that was conducted in both Ghana and South Africa, and how it showed that in both places, especially here, a lot of these street children were, of course, some of them are there through no fault of theirs, they should be in school, were abusing the drug. What is the status? I mean, is that something you would corroborate, the status of drug use in Ghana? Is marijuana number one on our list? How has NACOC approached it? Also in respect of street children.
Okay, thank you. When we talk of marijuana, it's not only a problem for Ghana, because when you read the 2022 World Drug Report, it states that marijuana continues to be the drug of concern for the entire African continent. So Ghana, your research wasn't wrong, is the most abused illegal substance in Ghana. And according to studies by Juan Brown Akwe, he said that the initial use for marijuana is between 10 to 12 years. So the age that you are also talking about, street children, is also right. Because when we look at the first time, what the experimental age,
the initial,
yes, for marijuana is that very low, between 10 to 12 years. Because when we go out for our educational programs, we interact with some of these upper primary JHS, and to our amusement, like they already know the substance. So it's out there, it's widely available in the country. So now what we are doing is we have intensified our prevention, because prevention aims at stopping or at least delaying the initial use of these substances. So now we go to communities, schools, churches, just to engage people, to let them know. Because mostly when you interact with these people who are suffering from substance use disorder, what they usually say is, I didn't know, had I known. So we realize that, okay, it's the information deficiency that actually leads, because the one who is selling is just interested in the money that he's going to make. So any way or means that he will do to get you into the substance, they go about. So we've intensified our education just to let people know, because when we sit in our offices, it's hard to determine that maybe behind this building someone is abusing marijuana, since it's not something that is coming outside into the country, but it's already in the system. So we believe that through media engagement like we are doing and other sensitization programs, we can reach out to the masses and let them know the effects of these substances, especially marijuana, as you mentioned.
Interesting point you make, but let's talk about methamphetamine. It's not that common to find, but it also requires, there are specialized processes to produce it. If we find it here, then it either means it was brought in through unrecognized channels, or we have the expertise here. People are illegally producing that. What is the status of that product, its use in Ghana? How common is it? And have you had to, for example, hit any places where they were being produced and confiscate anything?
what we usually have, or what I'm aware of, is seizing at the airports and at the entry points at the borders. Because just by our neighbors in Nigeria, I think they had more than, in India, that's the Nigerian Drug Law Enforcement Agency, destroyed more than 126 clandestine labs. I think in 2016, I'm not sure of the year. So this tells us that if Nigeria is producing, then definitely it will be in Ghana, because they are with us. They are our brothers and sisters. We are with them. So the use, it's not that common as you said. It's hard to see people abuse it. But what we know is the trafficking, because it's hot cake when it gets to the Southeast Asia and other part of Asia. So what we normally experience is the trafficking bits of methamphetamine that is trying to conceal it through our airport or borders. That is what I'm aware of. But when it comes to the use, well, I will not say nobody in Ghana is using it, but I'm yet to, because when we go for our sensitization programs, that particular substance hardly comes up. So I'm yet to encounter anybody who is using it. But I know people are trafficking it, and there are people we've been arresting and seizing, destroying as part of our, when we go for our drug distractions.
When you look at the charts that I have seen in terms of drug use, you would see heroin in there, you would see cocaine in there, you would see opium, which can also be in liquid form, the opioids and all of that. Tell us a bit more about their presence, their use in our borders. What do you know so far? I mean, there are times when we've heard of those confiscations, slabs confiscated at the airport, at different ports and all of that. But what is the status?
Yeah, initially in the past, if you had asked me this question like 10 years ago, I would have said Ghana is a transit hub.
I recall.
Yes.
We had our own problems.
In the past, yes. Right. In the past, cocaine, heroin was not an issue here. It was just a transiting hub that people used this place just to get to Europe and America. But now, there is a growing market, especially for cocaine and heroin. And when you go to the ghettos, people are now abusing these substances.
Are we talking of crack cocaine?
Crack cocaine is there, yeah.
Crack cocaine?
Yeah. So where I was going is that it's not the sad thing is they bring the drug into the country for trafficking to move to the next state. So during the packing, definitely there will be base, there will be leftovers. So it's these leftovers that they gather, and they add something like sodium bicarbonate that's cocaine base to it, and they get a crack cocaine. That is why it is very addictive, very dangerous, and the high does not even last. So you need to go in for more. That is the cocaine. Same with heroin. Heroin is also targeting America, because that's where the market is. So what they do is, whilst sometimes you come here and you realize that the borders are tight. So will you stay for your heroin to go with? No. So they then float them into our black market, into our ghettos. And people, that's what they call brown. They usually call it brown or Thai. That's for heroin. And crack, that is rock or cocaine. That's what they call in the ghetto. So we know they are both there. And people are even actually mixing them.
Wow.
They mix cocaine with heroin. They call those ones speedball.
I mean, there are so many names for it.
Yes, speedball. And it's deadly. Just like the Tramadol and energy drink example. Because cocaine is also a stimulant that is stimulating the central nervous system. Heroin is a depressant. So when you mix these two, it can be deadly, and overdose can kill you instantly.
There's something we often don't talk about, though. In the context of drug abuse, alcohol is also considered a drug. In that context, it is considered a drug, a central nervous system depressant. When it comes to alcohol abuse, do you also wade into that? What categories do you
So when it comes to alcohol, what we do is, as I said, is education. Because this is a legal substance that people have or feel they have the right to use. So when you tell them don't use alcohol, it's like what the theorists will say, that's the theory of psychological reactance. Once people feel that their freedom is being interfered with, they are likely to bounce back. So it's like we go in with the education, with the information that this is what alcohol is going to do to you. So if you feel like using alcohol, what we preach is more or less moderation. As you said, abuse. You don't abuse it, but rather moderate it. Because binge drinking, study will tell that binge drinking can kill you instantly. And there were videos that circulated on our social media.
You can lose consciousness and be...
Yes, social media some time ago where I don't know whether it was a competition. People just took, one guy just took a whole bottle of a drink I wouldn't want to mention, and instantly he
passed out.
He collapsed. The video was cut short, but he collapsed and they were shouting. So that is the effect of binge drinking. So what we do with alcohol is we kind of educate, give you the realities. However, I also say that the FDA is doing well because it falls within their jurisdiction. If you realize in some few years now, they've made some policies where celebrities cannot even advertise for alcohol.
Right.
You can also do advertisement of alcohol during daytime. I think it starts from 8 p.m.
Certain late hours.
Yes. And now they've also been instructed to write on the bottle, not recommended for children under 18 years and pregnant women. So these are policies that...
We also see the ones on tobacco-related products.
That is it. So because when the thing is legal, it becomes difficult when you want to go in hard. All you can do is give them the information, tell them the truth, don't exaggerate, don't lie to them, let them know the reality that if you consume or if you abuse alcohol, you can get hepatitis C, you can get cirrhosis. Let the person know.
I know about liver cirrhosis, but hepatitis C?
Yes.
Really?
Alcohol abuse can lead to that, yes.
Alcohol abuse can let you get hepatitis C?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I've learned something. That means the more you abuse alcohol, first, I don't know, fatty liver, there's fatty liver issues, liver cirrhosis, and now hepatitis C. So you probably want to watch it. There are two quick things I want us to look at before we get into the consequences of the abuse of all of these drugs that you've been making mention of, just for sensitization purposes. But there are legitimate drugs, like the Tramadol, that sometimes are also abused. The opioids, for example, can be used for pain medication, like you said, in other jurisdictions. Here, what does the law, Act 1019, say? Is there any different approach to it? I know you've spoken about Tramadol, but is there any different approach? Because they are legitimate. Since you're talking about legitimate things like alcohol and how it's controlled, what is the control mechanism there?
Without, or apart from heroin, morphine, opium, substances like pethidine, tramadol, and other methadone and other opioids are legal in the country.
Codeine is also...
Yes, they are legal. However, if you want to produce some of these substances, we have some chemicals we call precursor chemicals that you need to import. And mostly these industries and pharmaceutical companies bring most of these precursors. So what we do at our end is that our act mandates us to register and give you the license to import the precursor. So we monitor the quantity you are bringing, how they are being used, and when they get finished, and you need to bring in more. So that is because without these precursors, you cannot actually produce most of these medicines or medications, including the illegal drugs like cocaine and heroin. So we monitor and control these ones. But apart from monitoring and controlling precursor, when it comes to the legal opioids, they are just as legal as any other medication or drug on the counter or in the pharmacy.
All right, let's take a quick look at this, and then we can look at the consequences of the abuse. There's also hashish or shisha, and it's flavored, and so many substances are added. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is it not illegal? And why are people so able to use them so openly, so freely? You go to many pubs and places, and they are there.
Yeah.
And it's a health hazard, because I've heard that if you smoke one jar or whatever, it's like smoking, is it 1,000 cigarettes or something of the sort? But what is the reality of that? Quickly.
Okay, I think you put two substances together.
Okay.
Hashish is totally different from shisha.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hashish is the resin gotten from the cannabis plant. That's a form of marijuana. Marijuana is usually the dry leaves that they smoke. That's marijuana. But when they pound and grind the leaves into a paste, extract whatever from, then we get the hashish. And we even have the hashish oil, where you can also extract oils after kind of taking it into process, heating and stuff. You get the oil from the cannabis, and that's the hashish oil. So hashish and hashish oil are banned substances. For them, they are specified in the schedule. They are. You can't even go there. They are derivatives of cannabis, and they are banned, just like the whole plant is banned in the country. However, shisha comes from tobacco. It's a tobacco-based substance that people in the past, people added flavors to it and were using it. It's actually kind of an Arabian culture. And we know how these Arabians are affluent, they are rich. So now shisha, we are adopting that style, that lifestyle of these Arabians. Like, it makes you feel kind of being up there. That's how come you see young people, even now ladies who in the past really have gone closer to cigarettes, now feel proud to say they smoke shisha. Because shisha is kind of, you've attached certain status to shisha. When you sit in the lounge,
it's become a status.
If you look at the names, they give it shisha lounge. So it's like, yeah, you can actually work in a cool place with AC, sit in a luxurious chair and just be puffing or inhaling that substance. As you said, sitting in a sitting, if you consume or if you smoke one round of one round of shisha, it's like smoking about 8 sticks of the normal cigarettes that people do smoke. And the effect is that the study will tell you that tobacco kills more than 8 million of its users every year. And let me send this warning to also the secondary users. Out of these 8 million, 1.2 million are secondary users. Oh, me, I don't smoke. I was with my boyfriend and he was smoking.
Passive smokers.
Passive smokers. Right. The study will let you know that aside the 8 million that die every year, 1.2 million are from passive, or they are passive smokers. So it's not...
It's even worse to be a passive smoker.
That is the point. So it's not about... Now you enjoy the luxury, the coolness of the substance, but the effects await you. It's just like smoking cigarettes.
Okay, so let's...
But now, let me add this one. The danger is they are now even adding marijuana to it. So now instead of the tobacco base or the tobacco thing that shisha is made up of, now it's marijuana base. People are now putting in marijuana. And that one, if we get you, the law will deal with you because it's illegal. Marijuana is illegal. So once you put in...
So even if you're not aware and you're there and you are smoking it or whatever and you are caught...
Once you're able to establish it's marijuana, you can't be picked up.
All right. So in the next 2 minutes or so, as we wrap the conversation, let's look at the consequences of abusing all of these, what we should be aware of, and again, if, like you said, if you're caught with any of these items, what the consequences are. You started by talking about 200 penalty units, especially for weed and other products, and that's the minimum. The maximum is 500 penalty points. And if you're unable to pay the fine, then a jail term will be served you. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so what I was giving it was in regard to in relation to use. However, if you are caught possessing for trafficking, for trade, for any other means, maybe an enterprise, the law says that a minimum of 10,000 penalty units and a maximum of 25,000 penalty units. In addition to minimum of 10 years to 25 years imprisonment. If you're unable to pay the fine, then 3 years will be added. That one lies with the court. So that is when you are caught possessing, importing, trying to sell, cultivating. Cultivating also has its own punishment. That is for marijuana. When it comes to the other consequences of using these substances, aside the ill health that we've mentioned, like you stand a chance of getting lung cancer, kidney issues, liver issues, there are the effects of substance use disorder, which is a bit... People are not really aware of that. That addiction is actually a disease. It's a complex brain disease that is characterized by relapse and leads to a person's inability to control their use of substance, despite the effect. He or she knows that me using this substance...
It's become an addiction,
yes,
so they find it difficult.
But people don't really consider it as a disease. It's a mental health issue. It's a disease that is there. And people are more or less... Oh, it's normal. This is a moral or some kind of a moral issue and not a disease. So that is the danger. We have other effects like injuries, accidents resulting from risky behaviors when you are intoxicated. We see people drink or smoke, jumping buildings, crossing the street anyhow, engaging in tug fight and tug wars when they are intoxicated. These are some of the dangers. The violent aspect, we have effects like if you are a young person, you dropping out of school, because studies show that young people who engage or start using these substances are likely to drop out of school, and you lose your future ambition. So these are some of the consequences for using these substances.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning for this conversation. It's been enlightening, And we're hoping that with the work you're doing, less and less people will be exposed to these elements, because sometimes it gets really difficult, especially when you start as a child. When you're exposed to it, then it becomes really difficult breaking the habit. But we're grateful you've taken the time this morning to come and educate us live on Joy News. We've had joining us for the conversation NCO Rees Hakim Odro. He is Deputy Greater Accra Regional Commander. He joined us for this conversation. One more time, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Stay with us, because up next we're going to be hosting the Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram. Recently, he got the nod from his constituency to contest on the NDC's ticket. Well, we'll be getting into a number of salient issues bordering on our national life. Everything that you can think of. Well, probably not everything, but the most salient matters. That conversation up next on the AM show. Do stay.